Hello and welcome to Catalyze Music Academy. My name is Zaak Kerstetter and I'm an Ableton Certified Trainer. And as of recording this video, Live 11 is set to be released tomorrow. And I've seen a lot of people talk about a lot of the big features, a lot of like the major flagship things they're really excited about, things like MPE, comping, multi-track editing, all the new devices. There's lots of really cool stuff to be excited about. But I wanted to make a video focusing on specifically the things that I think have kind of flown under the radar a little bit. They're not quite hidden features, but they're things that I didn't realize immediately, and it took me a few months of playing around with the Live 11 beta to kind of figure out and realize how cool they actually are. So I want to go through my 5 favorite new under-the-radar features in Live 11. So I want to start off by talking about a brand new key command. This is something that's really, really handy, which is literally just using the C button, just the letter C, and that will record enable the currently selected track. So if I'm selected over here, C button, or if I go over here, C button will allow you to record enable whatever track you currently have selected. Really handy. I've been wanting this for a long time and now it's just there. One thing I would like to point out is that if you have your computer keyboard set as your MIDI controller, which you can turn on by hitting this little button right here or by hitting the M button, if this is turned on and you hit the C button, it controls the velocity of your computer keyboard. It does not record enable. So if you try hitting C and it's not working, try first turning this button off and then you can hit C to record enable or not record enable. So watch out for that. The second new feature that I think is really awesome is a device that's been around for a long time, that's been updated, which is going to be the expression control. So this is a Max for Live device. Like I said, it's been around for a while. It's now listed directly in the MIDI effects of your browser, or the MIDI effects page of your browser. And this has been updated in 2 major ways. The first of which is MPE. So it now can receive MPE messages. So if we go in here, we can receive things like expression and slide. But it could always receive things like velocity, mod wheel, pitch bend, aftertouch, keyboard tracking, basically kind of generic incoming MIDI messages that you could then map to whatever you want. So you could have velocity control anything you wanted on any device. The big thing that they added, the thing that I want to focus on, is they've added a new control, which is random, which means every single time I play a MIDI note, so I play some MIDI notes, you can see it's picking a new random value here. And then we can map that random value to any parameter that we want on any device that we want. So for example, if I hit the map button, I can click on filter frequency, and now every single time I play MIDI note, it's going to pick a new random value for me, which is great. I've been doing a lot of random sound design. In fact, I tried to do something almost exactly like this last summer, and I could do it, but I had to get really fancy with some Max for Live devices to make it work. Now it's just built in here. I might make it a whole other video just on random sound design and how fun and easy it is to make some really cool sounds this way. But this is a fantastic way so that every single time you play a new MIDI note, it's going to randomly pick a new value. And you could have multiple different random values be triggered with a single MIDI note by having multiple inputs here, all set to random, where you can mix and match all these values together. So a really cool device, updated in a way that I'm really excited about. The next major feature I want to talk about has to do with the draw mode. So draw mode is basically the pencil tool. You can access it by hitting the B button or by hitting the little pencil icon up top here. And in the past, when you used your pencil tool, if you were to just click and drag, it's going to just add in just a single note like that. However, now if you click and drag, you can add in multiple notes like this in terms of like just pitching things up and down, which is really, really handy. So depending on which behavior you want, if you go into your preferences, under the Record Warp Launch tab, there is this draw mode with pitch lock. If this is turned off, it allows you to pitch things up and down, and when it's turned on, it's just all the same note. Keep in mind that no matter which value you have set here, if you hold down the Option key, it does the opposite. So let me go ahead and just delete all these guys. So if I have this turned off, which means I can play different notes, I can play different notes. If I hold down the Option key, it just allows me to add that one note. And same thing if you do it the way around. Option key will allow you to play multiple notes. It's pretty cool. So that's a brand new feature that I thought was pretty awesome that I hadn't seen a lot of people talk about. The fourth thing that I want to mention is MIDI editing. There are tons and tons of new ways to play with your MIDI clips and get lots of different results out of them. We can do things like randomized velocities, velocity ranges, scale modes, all that stuff. Really, really cool. But the 2 things I wanted to mention that I didn't notice at first is number 1, in the past, if you selected some notes and you use your arrow keys, you can move them up and down and left and right. That's pretty normal behavior. However, now, if you select down here in your velocity area, you can select velocities. So now if I move my arrow keys up and down, Left and right doesn't do anything, but up and down allows me to change my velocities. And you can see the velocities are changing in increments of 10. If you hold down shift and hit up and down, it moves them up and down in individual increments of velocity. So that's kind of cool. If you're using arrow keys, selecting here is different than selecting down here, which was never the case in the past. So that's pretty awesome. On top of that, the other thing I want to mention about MIDI editing that I didn't notice at first is when you are doing multi-clip editing. So here I've got a purple clip and a blue clip. In the past, I could either edit my purple notes or I could switch to editing my blue notes. So you kind of do it, you can see both at the same time, but you can only do one or the other. If you take this focus button and turn this off, it allows you to select notes across multiple clips, and then you can edit them together, which is really, really cool. So not only can we see multiple clips at the same time, but we can also edit them by either turning this on or off, which is pretty awesome. And then the fifth and final feature that I want to mention has to do with the compressor. Not really much has changed with the compressor, but the one change they did make, I think, is really, really cool, and I've been wanting this for a long time. So as somebody who talks about compressors a lot and explains compressors a lot to people who have never seen them before, the gain reduction meter can be a little confusing and a little hard to wrap your head around. So in the past, when the signal going into your compressor triggered the gain reduction, you would see the orange meter bouncing up and down, which looks like this. So you can see it bouncing up and down there, but there was no way to tell exactly how much volume was being turned down by the gain reduction. However, now they added it down here. So it actually displays in decibels. So you can see we're getting about 5 decibels, almost 6 decibels of compression, depending on where we're at. So if you are starting to learn compressors and learn your way around a compressor, this is really, really handy. And for people like me who teach about compressors quite a bit, this is also really useful. It also makes it so you can be a little bit more accurate in adjusting things like your output gain. The other minor change that they did make with the compressor is they changed how the default device compressor works. So if I grab a compressor from scratch, you can see it loads up in this view, which has always been there. And the makeup gain is no longer turned on. It loads up in RMS mode instead of peak mode. And the ratio, which used to default at 2, now defaults at 4. So it's the exact same thing. It just, the starting values of the default device are slightly different than how they used to be. All of those changes I think are actually pretty cool, and I'm in favor of it. But the big thing that I really love is the actual gain reduction meter, which is really, really cool. So that's it. Those are the 5 things that I've kind of found by just kind of poking around and digging through patch notes. Hopefully you found that useful. There are tons and tons of other really small quality of life features like this that you might not notice at first that will actually make a big difference in terms of how you use Live. So if you are thinking about upgrading to Live 11, even if you're not going to be using a lot of the big new features, I would definitely recommend for a lot of these little tiny tweaks they've made to dial in the software and smooth out the workflow and give you a few more options when it comes to doing all kinds of stuff with Live. So hopefully you enjoyed watching that. If you did, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I make a lot of videos like this, both in terms of new features coming out in Live 11, as well as just general quick tips and tricks and things like that. And if you're interested in learning more about what we do at Catalyze Academy, feel free to check out our website, catalyzeacademy.com, for info about classes and workshops and lessons and things that we offer. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.